Alright, so we're here. Our view is now messed up because we got so much going on. Let's go ahead and put everything back into the same view so we get more of a full screeny kind of mode, right? And in fact, I'm just going to close everything so we can start a little bit from fresh. So what you can do is you can right click and you can say close all with this, and you say yes, and we can save our diagram. And yeah, good. So we're closed out now, right? So what I like to use a lot of times is I like right clicks because I forget a lot. I'm that guy. All right. So I use right clicks a lot because it also teaches me what I don't know sometimes. Not that there's a lot I don't know, but it gives you all the basics. Okay. So right now, let's just show you. If I wanted to create this table again, right now I can right click or save it for later. I can right click and I can say script me out this table as a create in a new query editor window. And if I save this code and ran it in SQL, I could create this table all over again. Not that this matters to us right now. We're just talking. Okay. It also has select, and select is the most commonly used query in SQL, right? From the standpoint of the UI here. So when you want to look at your data, you use a select statement. Um, let's go ahead and we're going to do a couple examples of select statements, and then we're going to talk about the anatomy of a select statement. Okay, so when we run this, it creates this select statement, and basically what it's saying is select. I'm going to take top 1000 out of here for a minute, and it's saying select these columns from this table inside of this database. Now this select statement could be much simpler if we wanted it to, and we could just replace all these with the star, and we could just give it the table name. So select star from table is not the easiest query in the world, but it is a really easy query. All right. That's because I'm not assigned to my database here, which was Udemy. All right. So now I can click that, and I got my data. The reality is the easiest query is something more like select 1, and then I run that, and it literally just prints 1 out to my screen, right? So that's what you have to know is select 1 selects a 1 out to the screen, but we can say select star from table name. And when I do select star from table name, it gives me all of my fields with their current name in whatever order it chooses. Okay? But what I can do from here is I can say that I only want the ID field and the name field. So when I run this, it's going to give me only 2 columns back, and that is the ID field and the name field. And now that's the data that I have back right now. You'll have to forgive me. I seem to like to highlight my data, but you don't have to highlight your select statements to execute them. Okay? We have this other nifty button here called parse. And what this does is if I have something that doesn't make sense syntactically and I hit this, it'll tell me incorrect syntax near comma. And you run that when you have a whole lot going on and you don't want to accidentally run it without it being good. So, but if I run execute, it gives me the same exact values back. But when I run the parse method, it doesn't actually run this statement. It just says this statement will run. So I have my buddy execute here. Okay. Let's talk over 2 things while we're here right now. I'm selecting 2 columns right now. I'm selecting the ID column, and I'm selecting the name column. And I have the choice of renaming these columns to as Fred and as Wilma. And this is called an alias. So I can alias these fields as whatever I want. And now you'll notice that I have my Fred column and I have my Wilma column. This is useful when it comes to some sort of documentation on the data feed that you're kicking back from the database. Okay. Now, within this same select statement, a select statement can get as complicated as you want or as simple as you want. So from here, I have a lot of other options. I have something called a where clause. Okay, so what I can say here is where Fred, actually I have to say where ID equal 6. So this will give me where ID equals 6. So it gives me one row back now. Okay, I have a lot of options in this where clause. I can say where ID equals 6 or ID equals 7. So now I got 2 records back. And I can go a little bit deeper. And I can say where ID greater than 6. Okay? So this brings up the 3 parts of a select statement. You have the select, the from, and the where clause. So in the select statement, I choose what am I getting out of my table. Okay? In the from clause, I say what table am I getting the data from. And in the where clause, I'm saying that my data has to meet these requirements right here in order for me to get that data back. So we realize that when I selected without the ID greater than, I get all 3 records back, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? But where I say and greater than 6, now I only get the one that is greater than 6. So if you have any type of experience with greater than, less than from like 6th grade or whatever class you learned that in, that's when these things start coming in handy. Now notice what I did here. I'm using my highlight to highlight multiple rows and hit execute. So what I did here was I say, give me and execute the entire statement I have right here. Or I can highlight a smaller version of the statement and run that. So it only runs what you have highlighted. If I just want to run select ID as Fred, that blows up. Okay? So note that you're going to see me doing this a lot because that's the kind of guy I am. But back to Udemy. We're trying to create our Udemy, and that's what we're trying to do, right? So we have our class data. We have our person data. We have our student class data. So let's go back and let's analyze some of our people. So we know that if we select star, we get all the fields back in that table. Okay? And now we know that person ID points to table person. So now I could ask myself, well, who is person 3? Who's teaching this class is really what I'm asking, right? I see a class and I say, that's an interesting class. Who's teaching this class? So I write my second select statement. I say select star from TB person where ID is equal to 3. So when I run this, that's a TB. I'm sorry, I'm very used to putting the table TB, the value TB in front of my tables. That's not the case here. So I can see that Steve is teaching class 6, which is about Steve's Guide to Life and Amazing Things. And we know that because we put his name in the title here, right? So this gives you a very, very, very easy way to start connecting the dots on your data. Okay, you can kind of see like how does this thought process work when you're creating a database, and how does it work when I'm trying to link things together, because it's all about linking things together. We're in what's called the normalized database, right? So we're starting to keep specific data in specific tables and then link to that data from other tables so that we can keep it all separated. So I want to stop here. We've talked slightly about select statements and what they do. We talked about the from and what it does, and we've talked about the where clause and what it does. So we're going to give you time to think, and I will make sure to put these select statements in the